Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Turbulent times, isn't it? It's nice weather outside, but nevertheless, there have been Corona. There was the experience of a geopolitical change in the world. We have faced the rise of artificial intelligence. We see a lot of, let's say, new competitors playing in the digital environment. Who in the room believes that the time of change has accelerated, that the momentum which we are facing in this world is different to the past? Who believes that we are in a different environment than we were before? Okay, so most of you are thinking there's something happening in our environment which is changing more rapidly than it was in the past. And if you look to the situation where we are, there is the sentiment in the German press or in our mindset that we are always saying, by the way, this world is getting worse. And especially for Germany or for Europe, the situation is worse. If I see the notes and I hear the sentiment in which we are operating, I question myself. Don't we need more about the discussion about how we want to create the wealth of the next generation, how we want to design our own future, than rather always complaining about the others? Shouldn't we try to embrace people in our society more back into a kind of optimism with regard to the future than complaining about the ones? Can we really leave, let's say, 30% of our society alone and letting these people vote with their feet and going to right wings? With regard to AI, should we really only discuss about the new regulation of an AI Act, than rather embracing AI as a new opportunity for the next generation, for generating wealth in society, for creating better productivity in our businesses, for creating an edge for our industries? And wouldn't it be good than rather complaining about Gen Z, about their working attitude, about their home office attitude? Or shouldn't we better trying to motivate the Gen Z to really, let's say, take the lead and make made in Germany, made in Europe even stronger? Shouldn't we incentivize this Generation Z in a way that we are motivating them to really, let's say, take the lead of our industries and make Germany or make Europe strong again in a competition which is getting tougher in this world? I'm just thinking about this debate about, let's say, a 4-day week now, which we have in Germany, which I find totally wrong. Shouldn't we have better discussion about the ones who are working hard, that we incentivize the young generation to earn more money or to have less taxes if they're working harder in our society? And by the way, I question, where is our willingness to generate our own destiny and our own future here in Europe and in Germany? I think our press, where are we, is always in a complaining mode. We are complaining about the Chinese competition, we are complaining about the Americans, we are complaining about, let's say, the working attitude which we are having. We are constantly in a complaining mode. And I can tell you, if we have that in our mind, we are in a downward spiral with regard to the motivation and the strength of our companies. We need more optimism for Europe and for Germany when it comes to the opportunities and the challenges, by the way, we are all facing here in this changing world. And therefore, I think, the most important is that we are rebuilding a kind of self-confidence and rather always questioning the strength of our democracies, the strength of our industries, the strength of the intellectual property which we have, the strength of our education which we have, and. By the way, I can tell you, Deutsche Telekom is today a 110 billion turnover company. We are operating across the globe. We have 13 countries where we have a product size like we have it in Germany with fixed mobile connectivity. And by the way, in every single market where we're operating, we're perceived from the customer perspective as number one from service and number one from the network connectivity, from the quality of the infrastructure. And by just, addressing, the needs of society with regard to connectivity, you see that we reach a position today that our company is worth 110 billion, which is more than the whole ecosystem of the followers in this ecosystem of telecommunication operators. And today, Deutsche Telekom is by far the leading telecommunication operator in Europe, with a very strong foothold here in Europe, but as well in North America. We are operating only in the Western world. This is where we are. We don't have a risk in Africa. We don't have a risk in South America. We don't are involved into Chinese or in Indian operations. We are just the connectivity operator in the Western world, in AAA markets, as we call it, which is, by the way, a big benefit which our company has today. We have the leading mobile operations in the US now. By the way, we are covering almost 300 million people in the US, which is significantly more than AT&T and Verizon with regard to our mobile connectivity in the US. And Deutsche Telekom today is allowed to serve 290 million customers across the globe. So what I'm telling you is, Deutsche Telekom was not always that position. I remember times, I'm now more than 20 years in the company, we were the talk of town everywhere. A little bit like Deutsche Bahn today. And I can tell you, it was very painful if you were in a restaurant and people were at the other table talking about your company in a bad manner. But this company has never given up. We took the stance, we are investing today 21 billion euros every single year into connectivity. And if you're brave, if you believe in the future, if you have an optimism and self-confidence, I can tell you, you are able to turn around the wheel and to change the attitude of the company. So we can finish here. I can tell you, don't read too much press. Don't become too negative. Have an optimism with regard to the future. And even black swans are nice swans sometimes. Every, let's say, challenge is an opportunity as well. And Deutsche Telekom is a good example. Goodbye. So, now you look at that page and you think Tim thinks he's the guy walking over water. No, I'm not thinking that we are going over the water. We are the guys here. You see them? These are the telco operators in Europe. These are my competitors, my real competitors in the world. And I can tell you, these are the players of telecom in Europe. We are swimming in the water. We are trying to earn our capital costs in this environment. And I can tell you, it's a damn difficult market in which we are operating. We are gaining in Europe half the revenue per customer than in the US. The capital returns are half than the ones, or even lower than the ones in the US. And I can tell you, with the situation, the environment, and the challenges we are facing here, I can tell you it is very tough to survive in this environment. Okay, I'm not complaining, but I can tell you, in our industries, we have these supermans. And these supermans are our biggest challenge. Now, for the Berlin Society, I ask you, what is this? Is this art? It could be a Rothko, isn't it? For the art experts here in the room. No, this is the art of scale, gentlemen and ladies. This is, by the way, the situation of the digital landscape in which we are swimming. And by the way, what you see here is the value of Apple, the value of Microsoft, the value of Amazon, Facebook, the value of Alphabet, You see the operations in the US with Comcast, the US telcos, AT&T, and T-Mobile US, which is, by the way, owned by us. So we are the lucky one in this business. And this, guys, is the telco industry of Europe. So this small blue dot at the bottom. So now, if we are talking about at that conference about digitization, without infrastructure, without networks, without connectivity, all digitization is almost worthless. So without the enabling of the infrastructure, it is impossible to embrace opportunities in this ecosystem in an appropriate way. So therefore, this is a prerequisite to play in the digital ecosystem. And I can tell you, it is very difficult, even for a Deutsche Telekom with 110 billion market cap, in this big pond to survive. And we have to question ourselves, how can we build up a strength that we are on eye level with these fantastic companies? And by the way, don't take me wrong. I highly admire the entrepreneurship of these companies. It's a fantastic business, a fantastic added value they have created for societies. But they have gained a power in these ecosystems which is very difficult for us, to catch up and to play on eye level in these industries. What is the reason that we are in this position in the digital ecosystem? What were the roots for these challenges? And I can tell you, if you look, you will see that if you come from a perspective of scientific and academic work, our universities in Germany and Europe are excellent. Our students are brilliant. Even the registration of IP in this ecosystem is on a high level with regard to the GDP of the US. But the moment where it comes into entrepreneur relations and the moment where it comes into building unicorns, or in the moment where it comes to creating societal wealth out of this brain, we are falling behind. There's something wrong in our attitude, and there's even something wrong in the ecosystem, in the framework where we are operating. There's another indicator which I like to share. In the 50s to 70s, Germany and European countries who were leading on innovation were investing 4% of their GDP into innovation. They did that to compensate for the commodization of other services. Every product is facing a commodization over time. Connectivity is getting cheaper. Products are getting cheaper if they are in mass market situations. To overcompensate this price decline, innovation was helping to compensate. Now, 4% of the GDP is necessary for compensating this commoditization. What we did since the 70s and 80s, we constantly reduced the amount of money into innovations. Today, Germany is investing less than 1% of its GDP in innovation. So the government and even companies are not sufficiently producing innovations, growth for the next generation to overcome the decline of their revenues. So we have a challenge in the ecosystem. We will not catch up if we are not stepping up in this regard. But, and I'm optimist, there are good examples. I cannot go into all these examples, but what you can see is Ursula Franz working on nuclear fusion work, Jan Wurzbacher on the carbon removal tech. We have Jonas Androulis, you might see him here, who is, one of the lighthouses for artificial intelligence, generative AI in the German environment. By the way, we have the Henrik Dietz, who is working on DNA nanotechnologies with leading things. And by the way, I'm very proud there's one guy here, which is Daniel, He's an employee of Deutsche Telekom. He just won the German championship of programming, and one of the best programmers in Germany who is working with Deutsche Telekom. So guys, we can if we want. There is no question that we have the capabilities and even the sources to catch up on the innovation and on the improvements of our industries. But I can tell you, apart from the mentality, apart from the education, apart from our willingness to make Germany great again with regard to its innovation and its product, it needs a political change. I was recently on a conference at the BDI here in Berlin, and I heard a speech about now it's time, that Europe is the biggest economy in the world, 500 million people living here, a very solid democratic, fundament. And by the way, we should be proud. It is the strongest economy in Europe. The problem is, it's not an economy. Because in the most of the industries, we don't have a single market. So what it would take is that we are finally coming from 27 Europes to one economical Europe with one digital market, finally. Guys, we are talking about this topic, about a single digital market, already since more than a decade. And still today, we have in every market, we have antitrust laws, we have 4 mobile operators, we are having more than 100 telecommunication companies here, while in China, you have 3, while in US, you have 3, while in all the big economies like India, you don't have more than 100 operators. In Europe, we have 35 operators who are operating with less than 500,000 customers. And I can tell you, the economies of scale, the platform economy, will never take place if you're not scaling and being able to provide the resources, the free cash flow, which is able to build the most modern infrastructures. The second one is the whole philosophy of the European regulation is about providing customers with the lowest prices ever. So the idea is, if the consumer is getting connectivity for almost free, it's the best which can happen. I understand that, because connectivity, in principle, is a human right. If we are not connected, we are not part of the society anymore. So there is a political mindset, we should make it for free. Like the streets, we should make it for free. The problem is, the government is not building the networks. They delegate it to companies like ours to build this infrastructure. So we have now, in Europe, the lowest prices in the connectivity market, and at the same time, we should build the best infrastructures for the global economy. I do not know how many entrepreneurs and business people are in the room. This is impossible. You cannot reduce the income and the cash flow of companies and at the same time expect that you are investing more than in US or China. In the US, per people in the society, $220 get invested. In Europe, it's now, for the last 10 years, less than 180 euros. So there is a gap, and this will not bring us back into a leading position with regard to the connectivity. So we have to come from a focus on prices only in our society to a question of a balance between prices, affordable and good competition on the one side, but decent returns at the same time. The third thing what we have to change is we have delays in regulation, and we are world champion in Germany in the approval of infrastructure. For a normal mobile site, which we are building in Germany, the average waiting time to get an antenna up and running, it takes 2.5 years. So everybody is involved in the decision about our future, our connectivity when it comes to a mobile site. So the complexity of regulation which we have built is to an extent which is not existing in any other economy in the global environment. And this, by the way, is not giving us the time to market which we need to catch up to new technologies. We need faster decision process. And by the way, I believe if Europe is releasing a new law, there should be a law, when you release a new law, you have to cut 3 others. A 1 to 3 rule to make us more agile, more free, that we are able to catch up. And I'm very worried about artificial intelligence. If I would be a startup in Germany or in Europe and have to consider digital market act, GDPR, the AI Act, plus, I can tell you, your compliance department will be bigger from the beginning than your developing team, which is really working on the product for your customers. We have to change our mindset with regard to the worries we always have. We are trying to anticipate all worst cases at the beginning, then rather letting the system playfully try it out and regulate afterwards. In our industry, a very simple example. I'm not allowed to switch on a mobile site before I haven't got the final approval from the Bundesnetzagentur. I can tell you, in 99% of all the cases, the antenna is approved, but immediately. Why can't I switch on the antenna immediately and then getting, let's say, a check of the Bundesnetzagentur at a later stage, and if I've done something wrong, I pay a penalty for that one. But only for the process, waiting to the final approval, it takes months, why not even years, to get the final approval in the whole process. And the last thing here is we have to go from systematic advantages to a level playing field. Guys, again, I'm not worried about the big tech companies in the US. Yes, they're playing power game. These guys have muscles. And by the way, financial muscles, which matters in our industries. But they're very entrepreneurial, they're very good. The only thing is, if we are fighting, we should fight at fair level playing field. There should be an opportunity for us to catch up. I give you one example, what I mean with it. Today, we are increasing the capacity of our infrastructure every year by 30% in the backbone and in the last mile, due to the capacity which are pumped over the infrastructure. By the way, it's us, it's the TikToks, it's the Instagrams, it's our movies, it's the UHD quality. It is all this kind of data which is flowing through the network into our houses and into our use. The problem with that is there's no incentive for these internet giants to pay a little bit for the transfer of this data in the infrastructure. They get it for free. If they put advertising on it, if they put spend on it, they can pump the networks with every data. They're not paying a single euro for the backbone infrastructure. It's a zero-sum game. So if you don't have an incentive to orchestrate your traffic in an efficient way, why should you? Nobody would do that. And therefore, we think that we need a fair share here, that if the big companies are providing us with all this data in the network, they should contribute to the infrastructure of our society here in Europe, that we are able to build the infrastructure at a profitable way without increasing the prices for the end customers, which no politicians, by the way, I even don't want to increase the prices because I want to have happy and lucky customers. The problem is there's no willingness really to interfere into this model. And I think if we have 20 to 30% of all the investments in our infrastructure with zero return, think about the equation of our profit and loss account, which we are having today. The overall expectation to Deutsche Telekom, to my company, and I think to us as a society, for us as the leaders in the digital ecosystem, is the last one, which is digitize, digitize, digitize. We have a nice say at Deutsche Telekom. When you don't understand the strategy, what the CEO is talking about, if you don't have a boss who is guiding you the way, if you do not know what to do in your company, digitize. Digitize something. It's always right. It's always right. And if you look into our world, we have the passive infrastructure. By the way, the antennas on the mobile side, or even the infrastructure which we have in the ground for fiber networks. Today, we are taking the software out, the antennas, put the software into the cloud, we cloudify. What is that? Softwareization. We are managing our core, the aggregation network. We are managing the IP traffic over the network, that it's more efficient and that it's cheaper for our customer. What is this? Software. Then we have the data in the core network, and where we are now trying to connect people. Connecting people is software. If we're trying to serve you as a customer and trying to serve you in a better individualized way, it's not about the service agent, it's all about software. When it comes to the productivity inside of the company, when it comes to the processes of big corporates, what is the way of making it faster, making it much more efficient? Software. Everything what we are doing is about digitizing our ecosystem. And this is only one example. I think every company, every single company should put digitization on the main headline of their business. And with the rise of generative AI, which, by the way, was for most of us a big surprise, despite the fact that the logic, the mathematical routine of this was invented 40 years ago, it came up like a blow. And I can tell you, you have to spend all your time on trying to find out in every single department of your organization how you can embrace generative AI or LLM or other, machine learning mechanisms to create more productivity in your ecosystem within your businesses. I recently met a company from a cybersecurity side, big company. They're not making so much AI yet. They said the whole management spends more than 50% since 3 months only working on the opportunities, how they can embrace that. And I know from the US that these people are all sitting there and spending, from a CEO level, time on how to bring AI into the ecosystem of the company. Deutsche Telekom, we have 4 initiatives. First initiatives, clearly, the way of customer interaction, the chatbots and the like. We have so much data that we can use ChatGPT, OpenAI as a partner for us to optimize the whole customer interaction. Second area, T-Systems, and Adele will talk about that later on, is the area of software development within the company where we can use AI for being better. The third area is we have built an AI competence center within the company, which is enabling all people in communication, in legal, in all these departments, that they know which kind of license should I know, which kind of partners do, how do I respect GDPR, what kind of data can I share in the prompts. So the way that you enable your organization to embrace AI technologies, because I can tell you, most of our employees have no clue about LLM and the way how to write prompts and to use data. So therefore, we have to enable the organization. And the last thing is, we are working on an initiative to build our own transformer, our own database for telco-specific topics. Why can't I share prompts and data with other telcos to use the productivity, for instance, to maintain infrastructure in a better way? So digitize, 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 and now even, accelerated with AI technology is a must-do for all our industries. I like to end on an optimistic note. Look, I have the high fortune that I'm traveling the world and have the capabilities of looking all these ecosystems. And what I've seen is, that small countries are much more agile and adapting to all the challenges which are coming from the outside in a much faster and much rapid way. In South Korea, they say, we are a shrimp surrounded by big whales. And by the way, this is true, because if you see China, Japan, and all this big ecosystem sitting around this small country, South Korea, it's amazing how this country had created a power of innovation, a power of, let's say, reinventing their businesses. From a country which was farmland to a country which is today owning high tech. Their mentality is called Bali Bali. You find the same in Norway, a country which is highly innovative. By the way, haven't you never thought about why so many outstanding sportlers are coming from Norway? What is different that this small country has so many world champions and leaders? They call it Dugnat. You've seen Israel. Israel is in a very exposed situation. They face the challenges from outside every single minute, and they are threatened by life. And out of this threat, they have developed a kind of culture which they call mission has to get accomplished, always. And their mentality is always, to fight, let's say, a surviving battle, and they use technology, innovation, as an enabler to be leading. And the Iron Dome, and I see a lot of military people sitting here in this audience, is just one example about how innovative, this threat has been in the past. And if you go to Finland, they call it ZISO. And what I'm telling you is, it is not only about the topics I raised before. It is the mentality and the attitude which you have to bring into your companies. It's the mindset which you need onto tackling different situations. Every challenge is an opportunity. Every crisis is an opportunity. And if you have threatened from the outside, it's the question about how we are doing it. And I think then rather complaining about everything, we have to get out of our comfort zones in the company and create a spirit that we are not talking about our working attitude and going now toward the 4-day weeks, or the endless debate about home office, which is going nowhere, or the discussion about, let's say, that everything is bad what we're doing and the Chinese are treating us unfairly. It is our attitude to fight back and make Germany, make Europe really strong in its innovative regard. And the formula for that one, and maybe you have heard about that one. What is the formula of success? You need talents, bright people. We have bright people. You need discipline, a kind of time where you work and where you work hard and where you train yourself. It's very important to do this. What is even more relevant is the attitude in which we are tackling the challenges of the future. Success is talent plus disciplines times attitude. And therefore, I kick it off today. I hope you get a great attitude of facing the digital challenges of the future. Get out of our comfort zones, stop complaining, and let's tackle the competition which we are. Thank you very much.